I approached the modest wooden podium set in the center of the circle, a knot of anxiety twisting in my stomach. Speaking in front of people had never been my strong suit. Not back in middle school speech class, and certainly not now. My knees felt weak, my palms were clammy, and I was sure my voice would betray my nervousness. Drawing a deep breath to steady myself, I faced the small audience of about 18 men who sat waiting, their eyes fixed on me. "Hi," I started, my voice uneven but audible. "My name is Brandon." I paused, gathering my thoughts and summoning my courage. "And I am—" I hesitated, letting the silence linger as I observed their expressions. Some looked curious, others impassive. None of them laughed or mocked me, which gave me the confidence to push forward. "Well, not really," I added, "but being labeled that drives me mad." "This is my second meeting here," I continued, my tone firmer now. "After hearing some of your stories, I thought it was time to share my own. Unlike many of you, I'm still married." A few eyebrows lifted in mild surprise. "My lawyer recommended anger management counseling while preparing my divorce case. It's helping, I guess. At least I haven't strangled anyone yet." A ripple of laughter broke through the tension, and I felt the atmosphere lighten slightly. "I used to think of myself as a grounded person," I confessed. "Not naive or oblivious, but someone who had their life together. I believed I was a good husband, and I was excited about the idea of becoming a father. I never saw myself as a victim, and failure wasn't part of my vocabulary." I paused, unsure how to continue, then pressed on. "I've never been exceptional at anything, but I've always been good enough. In high school, I graduated in the top third of my class. College wasn't much different. I finished with a respectable 3.4 GPA. That got me into grad school, which led to a solid job in accounting. From there, I became a CPA, and I thought I was building a successful, stable life." My voice faltered slightly. "But no one tells you how to handle it when the ground beneath you collapses. Academic and professional achievements mean nothing when the person you love, the one who defines your world, makes you feel inadequate." She didn't have to say it. Her actions screamed it. I gripped the edges of the podium as though it were the only thing keeping me standing. "Sorry," I murmured, taking a moment to collect myself. A couple of men in the front row gave me encouraging nods. "I'm not here to paint a rosy picture of my wife," I said, shifting gears. "I won't go on about how she looked or how great our intimate life was. We were active, sure, and we worked well together, or so I thought. She was my best friend, my partner, my everything." I recounted how Samantha and I had met during my senior year of college, marrying the summer after graduation. My first accounting job helped her finish her degree, and later, while I became a CPA, she worked as a paralegal. "Recently, she's been talking about going to law school," I added with a wry chuckle. "Well, good luck to her. I won't be the one paying for it." That drew some laughs from the group. We'd put off having kids and buying a home until we were financially ready. Last year, after 5 years of marriage, we bought an old 4-bedroom house that I renovated from top to bottom. I gutted it, redesigned it, and rebuilt it with my brother's help. He's a contractor, and with a few favors from subcontractors I knew through my accounting work, I turned that house into Samantha's dream home. My voice carried a hint of pride. Now, its value is triple what we invested. 6 months ago, Samantha said she was ready for children. Within 2 months, she announced her pregnancy. At first, I was thrilled, I admitted, but something felt off. The timing, the circumstances. I couldn't shake the feeling that the baby might not be mine, and honestly, part of me hopes I'm right. The room grew quiet, a heavy stillness filling the space. "Looking back, I think she's been unfaithful for over a year," I said. "She had plenty of chances while I worked late or spent weekends on the house. But how did I find out?" I scanned the room, meeting their eyes. Not in some dramatic way. No late-night arrivals, no misplaced lingerie, no suspicious showers. It started with a phone call. I described overhearing her on the phone in our bedroom. At first, I thought she was chatting with a female friend about a business trip. But then the conversation shifted. She began discussing intimate details about her affair, her boss, Nathan, and even another woman. "I heard everything," I said, my voice trembling. How they hid it, what they did, and her uncertainty about whether the baby was mine or his. I admitted that I'd recorded the conversation and replayed it countless times, every word seared into my memory. "That's why I'm here," I said, my voice steadying. "I'm trying to figure out how to pick up the pieces and move on." As I finished, the room remained silent, the weight of my story settling over the group. "I recorded everything on my phone," I began, my voice steady but charged with emotion. A few faces in the room shifted from outright doubt to cautious acknowledgement. To build my case, I enlisted the help of a security expert my brother frequently collaborates with. He set up a network of cameras and audio recorders in strategic locations and provided me with smaller devices discreet enough to slip into her purse and briefcase. It didn't take long before I had undeniable proof, footage of her in my bed while I was at work, paired with audio recordings that erased any shadow of a doubt. She wasn't just seeing her boss. The secretary was involved too, often at the same time. The secretary, by the way, is married with kids. From what I gathered, they seized opportunities whenever possible. The boss seemed to alternate between the two women during office hours, and occasionally, the women turned their attentions to each other. Listening to the recordings, I couldn't help but marvel at how they managed to accomplish anything remotely professional. One question from my therapist lingered in my mind. He asked whether I'd considered why Samantha might seek intimacy outside our marriage. Perhaps, he suggested, it stemmed from the time we spent apart, or her unmet emotional and physical needs. My response was curt. I didn't care. She had cheated. If she felt neglected or needed more attention, she should have spoken up. Instead, she chose deception. Her reasons didn't matter to me. That was the gist of my story. I thanked the group for letting me vent and mentioned that I was in the process of divorcing her. Samantha had left earlier that day for yet another so-called business trip with her boss and the secretary. As I stepped back, a rugged-looking man called out, "Why didn't you go after the guy and teach him a lesson?" I shrugged. Funny thing, someone beat me to it. Her boyfriend ended up with a broken jaw and some other unfortunate injuries. The police chalked it up to a random assault. No witnesses. The room broke into laughter. I clarified that I hadn't even confronted Samantha yet. I was still deciding on my next steps. Some of the men gave me skeptical looks. "The main reason I'm here," I explained, "is to keep my temper in check. Sure, I've fantasized about smashing Nathan's face in or worse, but I'm not throwing my life away for her. All that macho bravado about fighting for a woman? Not my style. If she doesn't act like she's mine, she isn't." Another man piped up with a sly grin. "After hearing all that, did you start checking if her girlfriend's been leaving any marks?" I shook my head. Haven't touched her since I overheard that conversation. That same night, I tested positive for COVID. Spent weeks quarantining in the guest room. Honestly, I might hold the record for the longest case of staying positive. My joke earned a few laughs and nods of approval from the group. The therapist stepped in, thanking me for sharing and encouraging me to keep attending the meetings. He emphasized that they weren't just helpful for the group, but for me as well. I agreed to think about it. While I might need a place to channel my frustrations in the future, for now, I felt like I had things under control. Attending these sessions wasn't my idea. My lawyer insisted. He thought I was nearing my breaking point and needed a constructive outlet. Unlike traditional support groups, these meetings ended with a trip to the bar. Over drinks, one guy asked, "So you haven't confronted your wife yet?" "Nope," I replied. His disbelief was obvious. "Man, when I found out, I lost it," he said. "I hit my wife and chased the guy out of my house. She even had the nerve to tell me she was leaving with him. If he hadn't been quick, I might have done worse than smashing his car door before the cops came." "That why you're here?" I asked. "Court-ordered anger management?" He nodded. "Yeah." I glanced around. "How about the rest of these guys? Are they here for the same reasons? Some of them seem to enjoy these stories a little too much. Makes me wonder if they're here for opportunities." "Opportunities?" he asked, puzzled. "Yeah, like that old joke about the kid in confession," I said, recounting the tale of a boy who turned his priest's scolding into a list of romantic leads. The table erupted in laughter. One man leaned over and said, "If you ever need someone to take care of Nathan while you're conveniently at church, let me know." "How do I know you're not a cop trying to set me up?" I shot back. He grinned. "I've worked with your brother as a subcontractor. Pretty sure I've seen you on job sites. I used to have a beard and longer hair, probably why you don't recognize me." I made a mental note to confirm his story with my brother. For now, I told the group I was sticking to my lawyer's advice. Stay calm, get organized, and serve the divorce papers when the time was right. I limited myself to 2 drinks and left feeling unexpectedly lighter. Maybe there was merit to venting in a group like this. But I wasn't done. Samantha was off for a week with her boss and the secretary under the guise of work. I suspected their business would wrap up in 2 days, leaving the rest for their extracurriculars. Her promises of comp time and us time were laughable. She thought she was fooling me, but I wasn't blind. 2 weeks later, I arrived at the meeting late. The group greeted me warmly, their cheers breaking through the usual tension. The therapist was emphasizing the importance of channeling anger constructively. Despite my attempt to blend in quietly, I felt a surprising camaraderie as they welcomed me back. "Good to see you again, Brandon," someone said. My therapist addressed the group with a gentle prompt saying, "I think everyone here is eager to hear the continuation of your story." With a small, forced smile, I replied, "All right," masking the emptiness within me. Yet for a fleeting moment, stepping up to the podium gave me a faint sense of accomplishment. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had shared the dark tale of uncovering my wife's affair with her boss. To make matters worse, there was a possibility she might be pregnant with his child. Adding insult to injury, their workplace escapades also involved the office's legal secretary whenever the opportunity arose. Today, I'm here to recount what followed. At that time, I hadn't yet informed the boss's wife or the secretary's husband of their spouse's betrayals, not because they didn't deserve to know, but because I didn't want their reactions to interfere with the careful plans I was putting into motion. I had something unforgettable planned for my wife, but not in the way she might have hoped. By Thursday evening of that week, I decided it was time to let the others in on the truth. Apologizing for the delay, I explained my rationale and outlined my plan. Samantha, my wife, would be served divorce papers as soon as her plane landed on Sunday afternoon. I shared contact information for my attorney and recommended they get legal counsel as well. My one request was that they not alert their unfaithful spouses beforehand to avoid ruining the surprise. After the initial shock wore off, we had a candid conversation. It turned out their spouses, like mine, had been calling home each night, pretending to miss their families and expressing eagerness to return. We all recognized these proclamations for the hollow deceptions they were. I suggested Luna, the boss's wife, take her children to visit her sister and brother-in-law in Alexandria for support when the confrontation occurred. Luna revealed that her husband's infidelity wasn't a new issue. She had been enduring it while raising their 2 teenagers. Justin, the secretary Evelyn's husband, was unable to take time off from his job managing the local Ford dealership's maintenance department. Still, he vowed not to contact Evelyn, even joking that it would be better to avoid witnesses if he wanted to throttle her. The comment sparked laughter, and I lightly encouraged him to join our support group to help manage such urges. As we talked, I advised them both to secure their finances, sharing how I had split our joint accounts and protected my assets. While I didn't have much saved, both Luna and Justin admitted to having more substantial accounts. I also explained my decision not to cancel my credit cards just yet. Instead, I planned to use the joint account to settle the final bill, ensuring my wife bore her share of the expenses. After giving this advice, I left them to consider their next moves and returned home. By now, you've likely heard rumors about what I did next, and I assure you, they're true. The room erupted in applause as I gave a modest bow. That week, I meticulously dismantled my home, not in a reckless manner, but with methodical precision. Having completed most of the renovations myself with occasional help from my brother, I now began carefully undoing my work. I couldn't remove the drywall or paint, but I disconnected every major appliance. The stove, refrigerator, and dishwasher were unplugged, with their wiring and connectors neatly bagged. The garbage disposal was taken apart and left on the kitchen floor alongside the dismantled sink and faucets. Although I left the kitchen cabinets intact, I removed a few as a demonstration of what I could do if I chose to go further. The countertops remained in place, as removing them would cause irreparable damage. The bathrooms, however, were not spared. I drained and removed the toilets, dismantled the vanities, and unscrewed the faucets, leaving only exposed pipes and shut-off valves behind. The bathtubs and showers remained untouched, as they were similarly immovable without significant destruction. Next, I turned to the furniture. The bed frame was disassembled, with the mattress and box springs stacked in the hallway. I emptied the dresser and relocated my wife's clothing to the closet, now without its doors. The flat-pack furniture we had painstakingly assembled was returned to its original components. Shelving units and the credenza holding my liquor and her decorative trinkets were also dismantled, with hardware bagged and labeled for future use. Finally, I removed ceiling fans, light fixtures, and electrical outlets, leaving only the dining room chandelier intact, but without bulbs. The HVAC system and water heater stayed, as their removal required professional expertise. Items I no longer wanted, plates, glassware, and various keepsakes, were piled haphazardly in the master bedroom, creating an obstacle course of discarded memories. I left the exterior doors in place for security, but removed every interior door. As an accountant, I had fastidiously kept receipts for every renovation purchase. Since these items had been bought with joint funds, I saw this as my way of returning my wife's share, minus the sweat equity I had invested. Her contributions had been limited to choosing appliances and offering design suggestions. I retained only a few portable items, like the coffee maker and microwave, just to give her more to lament. The grand finale came on Sunday. As the plane landed, Samantha was served with divorce papers. Meanwhile, I was at home, surrounded by my brother and a few amused neighbors who had watched my week-long deconstruction. We grilled steaks rescued from the freezer and drank the contents of my liquor cabinet, having already donated the rest of the food to her mother under the guise of a freezer malfunction. And so, I waited for her to come home. The scene awaiting her was the culmination of a week of meticulous planning, the perfect conclusion to this chapter of our story. The woman stood frozen, too overwhelmed to question the chaos unraveling around her. I knew that in time, the answers would find her, even if clarity seemed distant now. Evelyn barely lingered after dropping Samantha and Nathan at the house, driving off without another word. What baffled me was why Nathan had chosen to return home with her in the first place. As Samantha stepped out of the van with her lover Nathan, I discreetly circled to the front of the house, leaving others to observe from the side. Their fury was palpable. Samantha waved the envelope she had been handed, shouting accusations, while Nathan, red-faced, demanded to know what lies I had supposedly told his wife. He even threatened legal action, accusing me of defaming his character. My response had already been made clear. I'd filed for divorce on the grounds of his infidelity, naming him as a co-respondent. While the courts rarely delve into the reasons for divorce, the accusation added a layer of public humiliation, ensuring the details would be preserved in the official records. Right then, Nathan's wife arrived with her sister in tow. Timing their arrival was no accident. I had tracked Samantha's phone to ensure precision and informed Luna, Nathan's wife, of when she should show up. Earlier, Luna had called me with disturbing news of her own. After returning from a weekend away, she had discovered her driveway littered with car parts, the disassembled remains of her husband's prized Ford Mustang. This car wasn't just a vehicle, it was a symbol, an heirloom passed down from his father, and a project Nathan had lovingly restored. Many joked the Mustang held a higher place in his heart than his family, a sentiment that often felt uncomfortably true. When Nathan spotted his wife's car approaching, he stammered a weak denial, insisting that whatever she had heard was untrue. She didn't respond, choosing to let him discover the state of his beloved Mustang on his own. Meanwhile, Samantha carried her suitcase into the house, where the storm of emotions continued to unfold. It didn't take long for her enraged scream to pierce the air. "What did you do to my home?" She hadn't yet grasped the full scope of the situation. The living room was a chaotic mess, with clutter stacked high, but the missing blinds and drapes had escaped her notice. Understandably, she was still reeling from being served divorce papers at the airport. I had stripped the windows bare and removed the blinds in preparation for dividing our assets. The electricity was off, leaving us dependent on daylight and a few generator-powered lamps. As Samantha stormed through the house, I led my brother and others inside, calmly explaining that I had systematically prepared everything for a fair division of property. She demanded to know where her belongings were, and I directed her to the bedroom closet, where her clothes and personal items were neatly stored. Her reaction was immediate, a piercing scream unlike anything I'd heard during our entire marriage. Someone had already called the police, and they arrived as Samantha raged about her destroyed home. I calmly explained to the officer what was happening, emphasizing that this was a civil matter, not criminal. More officers arrived, and soon my attorney appeared, apologizing for his delay. Samantha, now desperate, insisted that I should be arrested. My attorney firmly reiterated that no laws had been broken. Nathan, sensing his precarious position, urged his wife to take him home. Luna, however, stood firm, her face set in stone. She coldly asked him why he hadn't bothered to check his phone. Earlier she had sent him a text, but he had ignored it, assuming it concerned the rumors of his affair. Amid the turmoil, Samantha demanded to know where her car was. I told her it remained in the garage. When she rushed to retrieve it, she returned moments later, livid because the garage door wouldn't open. I explained that the power was off and the door opener disabled. Nathan suggested using the emergency release, but when they tried, they found the handle missing. I casually pointed out that it had been carefully labeled and set aside with other disassembled items. As the officers continued taking statements, Luna revealed a shocking twist. She had shown the lieutenant photos of the Mustang parts littering her driveway. The sight left him incredulous. I had already seen the pictures earlier but made it clear I'd been at my own home all weekend, with witnesses to confirm it. Eventually, Evelyn returned to collect Nathan and Samantha. She arrived looking distraught, her eyes red from crying. Her husband had thrown her out, tossing her clothes into garbage bags and demanding she see a lawyer before coming back. As Nathan and Samantha loaded their suitcases into Evelyn's van, Luna reminded Nathan again to check his phone. When he finally did, his anguished scream echoed Samantha's earlier outburst. He begged Evelyn to drive him home immediately. Luna had acted on a suggestion I'd given her during our earlier call. By the time we reached Nathan's house, a news van had already arrived. A reporter was interviewing Luna's brother-in-law, Samuel, about the bizarre scene she had returned to, the Mustang parts strewn across the driveway and garage, blocking access. Since the mess was out of street view, it had gone unnoticed. Until now. I followed the group inside, watching as the drama reached new heights. This was far from over. The scene could only be described as surreal. Imagine the meticulous chaos of a childhood model car kit spilled across a driveway, not a haphazard mess, but an impeccably organized array. At the heart of it was the car's chassis, with the detached doors lying nearby. The hood rested in front, and the trunk sat behind. Strangely, the fenders and windshield remained in place, but almost every other piece had been carefully removed. The engine was absent, its parts, including the radiator, fan, water pump, starter, generator, and carburetor, arranged with precision nearby. Belts and hoses were neatly aligned in rows to the side. The transmission and drivetrain lay behind the stripped chassis, flanked by the wheels and brake assemblies. Even the seats had been removed and placed to one side. It was an astonishing display of methodical deconstruction, less like a disassembled car and more like an art installation. Never before had I witnessed such a thorough teardown. Amid the surreal orderliness, Nathan was a picture of despair. He dropped to his knees, wailing that Viviana had been destroyed. Confused, I turned to Luna for clarity. She explained with barely concealed amusement that Nathan had named his Mustang Viviana after a favorite song. The absurdity of it all overwhelmed me, and I burst out laughing. A local news crew captured the bizarre tableau. Police officers examined the scene while a reporter narrated for the evening broadcast. It wasn't long before the story went viral, fueled by online mockery and the network's decision to play Mustang Viviana as background music. We made no effort to stay out of the spotlight, ensuring that the three individuals whose actions had led to this moment were thoroughly exposed. Nathan quickly accused us of sabotaging his car, but our alibis were ironclad. Evelyn's husband, Justin, had spent the weekend at a car dealership and looking after their kids. While he had the expertise and tools to disassemble a car with such precision, there was no evidence linking him, or anyone else, to the act. Not a single fingerprint beyond Nathan's own was discovered, not even on the meticulously grouped lug nuts. Luna, too, was accounted for, having spent the weekend with her sister and brother-in-law. Even her children corroborated her story. She loudly declared she would never have dismantled the car, though if she had, she joked, it would have been with a hammer. The officers couldn't suppress their laughter at her defiant humor. As for me, suspicion lingered due to my reputation for hands-on projects, but I had an unassailable alibi of my own. I wasn't a mechanic. My skills lay in home renovation, not auto repair. That weekend, I had been dismantling parts of my house under the amused gaze of my neighbors. My sparse toolbox of wrenches and screwdrivers couldn't have achieved the precision seen in Nathan's driveway. The chaos at Nathan's home drew a crowd. Samantha was present, lacking other transportation, and Evelyn had been ousted by her husband. Even my father-in-law appeared, summoned by Samantha, and stood bewildered amidst the spectacle. The following day, a reporter reached out to me after hearing about my home renovation project. I provided one of 20 flash drives documenting the systematic deconstruction of my house. She condensed hours of footage into a short segment, which turned out to be a key element of my defense. These flash drives, which also contained evidence of the infidelities that had sparked the chaos, became a pivotal part of the story. Though Nathan eventually secured a restraining order to prevent further dissemination of the incriminating footage, it was too late. The explicit content, including compromising videos of the cheaters, had already spread online, humiliating Nathan further. Some clips even made it onto the news, albeit with the most graphic details omitted. The fallout was far-reaching. Samantha insisted on staying together for the baby's sake, but a paternity test, fast-tracked by me, proved the child wasn't mine. Faced with the undeniable results and the public scrutiny, Samantha had no choice but to relent. Whether Nathan, or another individual, steps up as the father is no longer my concern. Samantha's lawyer accused me of recklessly dismantling my own home, but my attorney countered that it was a calculated effort to preserve everything for resale. Meanwhile, the investigation into the Mustang's disassembly hit a wall. Experts suggested that a team of professionals must have orchestrated it, noting that all fluids had been carefully drained and no damage had been done, a feat even Justin admitted required extraordinary skill. Privately, Justin quipped that he'd like to hire whoever was responsible for their efficiency. He asked me directly if I was involved, and I truthfully denied it. Nathan, meanwhile, was left to deal with the aftermath, including the cost of storing the neatly arranged car parts. Luna gave him 2 days to clear the driveway, threatening to have local kids relocate everything to the carport if he failed to act. My own troubles didn't end there. The day after Samantha's return, I was abruptly fired from my job. My boss, a close friend of Nathan's, had even suggested that Samantha take a position at his company. Suspecting a deeper betrayal, I confronted him, asking if he had been involved with my wife. Though he denied it, I shared my suspicions with his wife, unwilling to let the matter rest. Despite losing my job, I managed to hold on to some dignity. Loyal clients refused to work with my former employer, and I offered to handle their accounts pro bono for 2 months, while I scraped by on minimum wage at my brother's business. Samantha's lawyer accused me of deliberately avoiding substantial income, but I argued I was simply reevaluating my career while supporting friends. Now, I'm building a small accounting firm in an office my brother offered me. The journey is far from over, but one thing is certain. Nathan's Mustang isn't the only thing left in pieces. The tangled web of deception that brought us all here is unraveling, one thread at a time. If anyone needs an accountant, feel free to reach out. When I mentioned this during an anger management support group meeting, It drew a mix of laughter and applause, which briefly lightened my otherwise bleak outlook. Despite the momentary relief, the harsh truth remained. I had lost my wife, my home, and the life I had painstakingly built. There was no recovering any of it. 3 weeks later, I found myself back at the support group, addressing the same faces. "It seems we're all here for similar reasons," I started. "Managing emotions can feel like an endless battle." With a small, self-deprecating smile, I added, "Or rather, keeping them in check long-term is the real challenge, isn't it?" Therapists often say there's a thin line between anger and depression, a concept I understand all too well. At present, I'm working with not one but two therapists, though not entirely by choice. While some of the group members are here because of court mandates, I attend because my sister-in-law insisted. The catalyst was an awkward family dinner. My 8-year-old nephew innocently asked, "Uncle Brandon, are you always mad because Aunt Samantha was mean to you?" The room went deathly quiet. When we asked where he got that idea, he pointed at me and replied, "I heard you telling Dad." My sister-in-law's sharp glare pinned me to my seat, clearly expecting me to clean up the mess. Choosing my words carefully, I told my nephew it wasn't nice to call people mean, but admitted I had been upset with his aunt. With childlike candor, he added, "I like her, but it's too bad she acts like that sometimes." My sister-in-law's stare intensified, and my brother offered no support. He was too busy suppressing laughter, his eyes glued to his plate. Later that evening, my sister-in-law confronted me, warning me to watch my words around her kids if I intended to stay under her roof. As if things weren't uncomfortable enough, my 6-year-old niece chimed in during the same dinner asking, "Boys? Uncle Brandon doesn't have any boys. Who are they?" My sister-in-law hastily explained that she was referring to her husband, her brother, and their father. But the child, with her typical precociousness, wasn't finished. "Oh, so when you told Miss Flora your girls were sore from rough play, you meant me scraping my knee?" she asked. I missed the rest because I was laughing too hard, but my sister-in-law was thoroughly mortified. To keep the peace, I now attend these sessions regularly. It's not like I have much choice. I can't afford to live on my own. My erratic income makes even a modest apartment unattainable, and while my sister-in-law is generous, she's firm about shielding her children from the shadow of my struggles. The past 3 weeks. Since the divorce, my financial situation has been dire. I've earned just enough to scrape by, which, ironically, is more than Samantha, my ex-wife, used to make before I lost my job. Her unusually high salary had always seemed suspicious. Her boss clearly valued more than just her paralegal skills. My lawyer advised me to stay silent about my suspicions, since even a small income gap could have affected my alimony obligations. Meanwhile, my friend Nathan is navigating his own disaster of a divorce. His wife, Luna, kicked him out, and his beloved car, Viviana, now sits idle in a storage unit. Luna seems determined to destroy him, though I pray her threats remain figurative. Nathan's problems have snowballed, fueled by whispers that some of his business dealings involved questionable favors from Samantha and another colleague, Evelyn. All three deny the rumors, but the damage is done. Nathan's clients are pulling away, and his firm is grappling with its own workplace scandals. Adding a touch of absurdity, Nathan's office has become the target of mockery, with people blasting Mustang Sally outside to taunt his attachment to his car. Though it's hard to muster sympathy, I know that if he loses his job, Samantha's inflated earnings might take a hit too. Evelyn, meanwhile, is trying to repair her marriage, claiming her manipulative affairs were never about love, but control. Her confessions might save her relationship, though they cast an unsettling light on her character. My divorce. As for me, my marriage is irreparably broken. Even if the child Samantha is expecting were mine, I wouldn't want her back. The court ruled in my favor regarding the equity I had invested in our home. I left the fixtures and appliances ready for resale or reinstallation, but refused to help Samantha pack. She wanted to talk, but I insisted on having my lawyer present for any discussions. During the division of assets, I offered her first choice of household items, even the toilets, but she accused me of being petty. Her plan to buy out my share of the house at face value, knowing its true worth was much higher, fell apart when my brother helped me secure the financing to outbid her. Unable to match my offer and unwilling to sell to me out of spite, she moved back in with her parents. Since then, we've maintained a frosty, albeit peaceful, truce. Where I stand, and so here I am, coping with the wreckage of a failed marriage, financial instability, and complicated family dynamics. If nothing else, these group sessions provide some much-needed comic relief amid the chaos. Her attorney eventually insisted that all the assets be sold through a public auction, with the proceeds divided equally. My lawyer argued weakly that this approach would result in significant financial losses, but his objections were ignored. Oddly, neither of us felt overly distressed by the decision. Samantha had tried to sell the house privately, but couldn't find a buyer willing to meet even a fraction of the amount I had previously offered. Initially, my brother expressed interest and proposed buying the rundown property for half of what Samantha and I had initially invested. However, she rejected his offer outright. When the auction took place, my brother managed to purchase the house for 70% of its appraised value. Though the property was in pristine condition, most potential buyers seemed hesitant to bid against him. Likely, they understood that opposing him could jeopardize future opportunities within the industry, given his influential reputation. Losing his cooperation could set off a chain reaction, leaving them without access to other skilled tradesmen. Samantha's lawyer briefly raised concerns about the less-than-ideal payout she received, but ultimately admitted it was her own suggestion to pursue the auction. He also acknowledged that she had refused my much higher initial offer. By the end of it all, I was left financially depleted and emotionally exhausted, a casualty of the divorce battle. Now I find myself unemployed and reduced to a fraction of my former wealth, living temporarily in my brother's guest room. In exchange for a roof over my head, I've been dedicating my time to restoring the very house that once belonged to me. It's common knowledge that I was the one who deconstructed the property, but no one has been able to uncover who dismantled Nathan's beloved Mustang, or find evidence pointing to the culprit. Nathan even hired private investigators, but their efforts have turned up nothing. Every aspect of my life was scrutinized in the aftermath. Investigators combed through my financial records, phone logs, and computer files for any sign that I might have hired someone to sabotage the car. They even extended their probe to include Justin, Evelyn's husband, but no links were uncovered. The incident gained traction online after making the rounds on network television, inadvertently turning me into a reluctant social media sensation. Now, I'm constantly pestered by people eager for a confession about my supposed involvement in dismantling the Mustang. They promise to keep my secret if I admit to it, only to turn around and commend me for a deed I didn't commit. At social events, I've had strangers toast me in jest, celebrating the alleged sabotage. On one such occasion, I walked away mid-speech, refusing to indulge their misplaced admiration. During a group therapy session, the therapist asked if anyone else wanted to share. Most attendees declined, save for one man who joked he'd reserve his tale about escorting a cheating wife's lover naked down the street for another time. We ended the session by heading to a bar, where I was approached by Marshall Garcia, a drywall subcontractor I'd recently met. "Brandon," Marshall began with a grin, "don't I deserve a discount for being a new client?" Amused, I replied, "Didn't I already set up your accounts for free? That took time. What more do you want?" Marshall smirked. "Well, I work for your brother, not you. Besides, your house already has walls. Or wait, are we talking about your old house? The one your brother now owns and rents to you for next to nothing?" We both understood the plan was for me to eventually buy back the house at the same price my brother paid, but only after enough time had passed to avoid any claims of fraud from Samantha. Marshall, however, had a different angle. "Actually," he said, "I think I've earned a discount for the effort it took to push down a floor jack so someone could strip that Mustang. I'm no mechanic, but I can stack parts like a pro. Oh, and don't forget about introducing your brother to some guys who could help out when things got tricky, especially my cousin, the mechanic." I laughed so hard tears clouded my vision as I marked his account paid in full for the year. And just like that, the story of the day came to an end. Did this narrative unfold the way you expected, or did the twists catch you off guard? Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this retelling, don't forget to like the story. New here? Subscribe for more tales like this, and be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for reading, and I'll see you next time. My friend, and this is the end of the story. If you liked this story, then put your royal like and subscribe to the channel. May the force be with you.